Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're tackling a challenge that sounds deceptively simple, but will absolutely push you to the limit. We are jumping feet first into a brutally honest fitness log of someone who did 100 squats every single day for 30 days straight. We're going to see exactly what happens to your legs, your energy levels, and your willpower when you take on a month-long gauntlet like this. If you've ever found yourself wondering if these wild internet fitness challenges actually work, well, you are in the right place. Let's get into it. To really grasp what this challenge is like, we got to talk about the brutal reality of those early days. Week 1, it's basically a harsh wake-up call. Suddenly, everyday tasks turn into a completely new kind of agony. Sitting down on the couch? Painful. Using the restroom? An absolute chore. And stairs? Oh, stairs become your absolute worst enemy. You'll be staring at an elevator, just completely tempted to give your screaming quads a break. It is rough. Because when you zoom out, there's this massive, staggering number staring you right in the face. 3,000. That's the total volume of squats you have to knock out by the time the month is over. Just seeing that number kind of sets the stakes, right? You aren't just doing a quick 20-minute workout here. You are committing to a daily grind that demands some serious, unwavering consistency. So why even put yourself through all that? Well, the motivation usually boils down to a few key things. You want to test your physical limits, see if you can actually transform your legs without stepping foot in a gym, and crucially, you want to build a habit. Now, people always say it takes 21 days to build a habit, right? Actually, scratch that. The science shows it takes an average of 66 days to make a behavior truly automatic. But hey, 30 days of squats, that is a rock-solid foundation to kickstart a sustainable routine. So the crucial point before the sweating even begins is establishing a baseline. Our author here took some hard, honest measurements. They started with a 37.25-inch hip measurement, tracked with a trusty measuring tape. They also threw on a Whoop strap to track daily cardiovascular recovery and heart rate variability, and even tested their initial cycling power on a stationary bike. You know, you really have to know exactly where you're starting from if you want to know if you actually hit those goals of firmer glutes, max power, and ironclad consistency. But listen, before you even think about dropping into rep number 1, you need a quick survival guide. Because terrible form over 3,000 reps, that is just a one-way ticket to knee and lower back pain for sure. So here's the deal. Feet about shoulder width apart, toes angled out slightly, maybe 15 to 30 degrees. You want to brace your core like you're about to take a punch to the stomach. Then, hinge at the hips and bend your knees at the same time. Keep that chest proud, spine neutral, and drive through your heels to stand back up. Perfect practice makes perfect reps. Even with absolutely perfect form, week 1 is purely about survival. Day 1 is all sunshine and optimism. But day 2, the fitness tracker data showed recovery plummeting right into the yellow zone, hitting a measly 44%. By day 4, the stiffness is so real that just walking normally is a struggle. And then, life happens. After a late night out dragging in at 4 a.m. on day 7, that recovery score completely tanked into the red. Trying to force yourself through 100 squats with zero energy and a terrible recovery score? That is exactly where the mental battle truly kicks in. The absolute secret to surviving those miserable days is realizing you don't have to knock out all 100 squats in one go. I mean, sure, you could be a hero and do one massive, grueling set of 100, or you could split it into 2 sets of 50. If you've got a jam-packed day, try 4 sets of 25, morning, noon, afternoon, and evening. You can even do micro workouts, literally just knock out 20 reps while you're standing in the kitchen waiting for the microwave. Breaking it down into bite-sized chunks makes fitting this into an actual, real-life schedule entirely possible. Now, what's really interesting is that by week 2, this magical shift happens in your body. That dreaded bone-deep soreness, it actually starts fading. This is thanks to a process called muscle adaptation. It's essentially this neurological and physiological process where your body goes, oh, okay, we're doing this every single day now? I better fortify these tissues. Your muscle fibers literally adapt to the stress, which means way less pain, reduced inflammation, and the start of firmer, more resilient muscles. Because of that awesome adaptation, weeks 2 and 3 feel like a massive victory lap. Hitting that midpoint is incredibly rewarding. The glutes noticeably feel firmer, and your daily energy finally starts to stabilize. But there's a catch. As your body adapts, it becomes incredibly efficient. Suddenly, 100 plain bodyweight squats just don't feel like a heavy burden anymore. They kind of feel easy, almost like a warm-up. And if you want to keep seeing actual results, you can't just hang out in your comfort zone.
Which brings us to a massively important concept in exercise science: progressive overload. To keep growing and avoid hitting a plateau, you have to gradually increase the weight, the frequency, or the volume. You have to force those muscles to keep adapting. If you just do 100 basic air squats every single day forever, your gains are literally going to stall out. To keep moving the needle in those final weeks, the routine absolutely had to evolve.
So, how exactly do you up the stakes when you're just training at home? You get a little creative. Our authors started holding a 10-kilogram weight to their chest, turning them into goblet squats. No dumbbells? No problem. Strap on a heavy backpack stuffed with some heavy books. You can widen your stance for sumo squats, or if you really just want to suffer, you can throw in some Bulgarian split squats by elevating your back foot to isolate each leg. Adding these weights and variations totally reignited the challenge and kept the muscles guessing all the way to the finish line. Let's fast forward to the grand finale and see how this all builds up. Day 30, 3,000 squats later. It is just a massive physical achievement. The legs feel tight, the quads feel undeniably strong. But honestly, across the board, the biggest victory wasn't even physical, it was mental. The mental toughness you gain from pushing through on those days when you're exhausted, sore, or just really don't want to do it, it's off the charts. You prove to yourself that you can stick to a tough routine no matter what. But let's get real and break down the final data. Was there some magical, unbelievable transformation? Well, looking at the numbers, the hip measurement barely budged, dropping from 37.25 inches to just 37 inches. But on the flip side, max power output on the bike shot way up. Now, interestingly enough, aerobic endurance actually dropped just a tiny bit. Why? Mostly because the body was spending all its energy recovering from high-volume strength training instead of cardio. But hey, the most important metric of all, a rock-solid habit was successfully built. And this brings us to the ultimate reality check when it comes to fitness challenges. Tape measures simply do not tell the whole story of your strength or your resilience. Plus, we gotta remember that genetics play a huge role in the natural shape of your glutes. 30 days of squats isn't gonna suddenly rewrite your DNA. And honestly, perhaps the biggest takeaway, if your goal is massive weight loss, you simply cannot out-squat a bad diet. Without a calorie deficit, doing 100 squats a day will definitely build muscle underneath, but it won't magically shed the pounds on top. If you are sitting there feeling inspired to take this on yourself, I've got some rapid-fire, highly practical advice for you. First off, don't go from 0 to 100. Maybe start with 30 a day and build your way up. Second, squats are super quad dominant, so you really need to balance out your legs with hamstring exercises, like Romanian deadlifts or glute bridges. Make sure you stretch those hips and ankles every single day to keep your mobility up. And please take rest days if you feel joint pain. There is a huge difference between being sore and being injured. Finally, get your mindset right. Expect real functional strength, not overnight magic. After 3,000 total reps, the physical gains in leg strength and stability are undeniably real. But the resilience, the sheer discipline, and that mental toughness, that was the true prize of this whole experiment. It completely proves that you can commit, you can endure, and you really can change your daily habits. So I'm going to leave you with this. Armed with all this knowledge, what 30-day challenge are you going to conquer tomorrow? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.